All right, and action.
Hello. Most of you know me. I'm Laurel, and in the former video that I made, I thought my introduction was cute because I said I'm a friend of the flowers, I'm a feral fairy, and I'm a plant friend. That is how, or a plant person. That's how I want to identify the most. As a person who just like really relates to plants, and because I relate to them, I hear them, and I think it's kind of debatable what I'm hearing. Is it my voice? Is it their voice? And I think maybe that doesn't matter. I think the point of attempting to listen to other species and other creatures is they're mirrors and helping us reflect back sometimes what we already know inside of ourselves, but our little human brains have too many other inputs to kind of really decipher that. So yeah, I thought we could do two things. One, just kind of meander and find some plants that we like to sit next to and spend a little time. I wouldn't necessarily say quietly. That's not necessary, but I think whatever, like if you wanted to listen to music, if you wanted to walk, I think there's a concept of like you must be still and quiet to hear things. And I think like a lot of people have different types of brains, and often I hear the most when I'm walking or listening to music because it actually is blocking out some aspect of my human brain being louder. And so I would never say like just sitting and being quiet is the only way to hear plants. And that's number one. And then number two, like coming back and talking about some of the plants historically that we've connected to and why, because I think that connects us to who speaks to us and why. Like maybe we already have had plants talk to us. So it's not like you do this and they will, or you do this and they won't. It's more like we probably all have already, for whatever reason, been attracted to a plant, and it's probably already told us something about it, or it's told us something about ourselves, or it's reflected something back that we needed to hear through its own beauty. Like we're like, why am I attracted to that color or this tree that I see over and over and over and like appears throughout my life? Yeah, so
Can you talk a little bit about your history, like where, how you got to where you are now?
that's a really good
I know it's a
question.
long thing, but could be.
History. I mean, I guess like Amy and I grew up in the woods, so I think probably originally I came to the earth wanting to talk to everyone and everything, and so I don't think I ever learned like, oh, that's not normal. And through periods of isolation and because of a brain injury that I got several years ago, I was, and like COVID isolation, I think that really triggered like a building of relationship to the like other than human kin for me, because I experienced like personal, I would almost say like the biggest type of loneliness that humans experience is feeling misunderstood, and that is probably something we all can relate to. And I think that's the biggest thing that I brought to the plants was like, well, if nobody else can hear me, and maybe I couldn't even use my own words because of the brain injury, like I will share with the plants. So I think like that is how I found that talking to them made sense again, because it sure did as a kid, and that never really went anywhere. Like, you know, the whole like just talking to plants or mushrooms or little animals or stuffed animals or rocks or all of the things that we kind of, I think a lot of us come inherently into the world with. And then it's almost like to learn to listen, you have to unlearn everything else that we've been taught. It's really, so I don't know, do we call it learning or do we call it unlearning? It's like somewhere in between. Yeah. And I was very privileged to grow up in the country with a mother who loved plants and gardens, and we had a lot of animals, and still sometimes feel more connected to them than to people, because I think they're just like always really loving and receiving. Like they have a lot of capacity to hold space for humans. And I think they are us in a certain way. Like we are all imperfectly perfect, perfectly imperfect, and possess all the qualities of, you could say, good, bad, evil, whatever, that, you know, the spectrum of things that exist in every human being through our spirit. I think that is true with plants as well. And what they have shown, which is incredible, is that like modern science is, you know, verifying the fact that like everything humans do, plants create some kind of like pattern around. So in a area where there is like nuclear waste and damage, plants that can help like pull toxins from your bodies grow in those environments. Like it's this complete miracle to me that they're basically saying like, y'all keep fucking up and we still love you, because it to me that proves that plants still want us here, because they don't have to do that.
Oh,
Like,
that's so sweet.
yeah, I think they love us, and so I think they're a really good person, or I call plants people, to go to say the first version of your story if you're not ready to share it to people, right? Like to help you figure out the details, or to hear you, or to help reflect back to you what you're trying to say, because they're really good listeners. And that actually leads to a really good segue, which I wrote a few notes down. Which is that to start by to learn to listen. I think one of the things we all know pretty well how to do is to talk. And so you can also just start by talking to plants. Like in very basic, simple terms. Like my favorite thing to say is thank you is the greatest prayer. And if you can think of nothing else to say, I feel like that is the number one thing we can all say to a plant. Like, thank you for being here, or thank you for appearing in my life, thank you for being beautiful, thank you for your medicine. So I feel like, yeah, is a great segue for us to wander off and just like have a little 10-minute conversation with a plant that attracts us. That is probably the most important thing, is just gravitate towards what is already kind of calling to you, and then we'll just come back and people can share if they want to share. But
Do you bring the plant with us, or do you just leave
that's
it?
a good question. I think if the plant, I'm actually really glad you brought that up. So something that I always teach kids when I did kids classes is to ask for permission to harvest. So I think if the plant is giving you a yes, and the way I determine that is it's like very easy to pick. If it's like, I need a tool, or it's like, no, I don't want to come with you, then that to me is a no. That's a very basic like consent to learn with plants, is like, does it just like pluck easily, or does it want to stay there? That's such a good question, because it is a really good way to communicate with plants, is to hear their yes and to hear their no. Yeah, so I think it's up to you and the plant.
Okay.
Yeah. And Amy, do you have suggestions? I mean, it seems like there's like plenty just